Hello everyone, this video will teach you everything you need to know on how to use the Recombinator to make extremely good gear with all tier 1 stats. You can make weapons, you can make your gloves, your chest, your belts, you can't make a mage blood in this, I'm sorry, but you can make helmets and boots and any rare item in this with tier 1 stats, and let's get right into it. What the Recombinator lets you do is put 2 pieces of gear in it, and with the price of some gold and dust, you can combine these 2 pieces of gear into 1 piece of gear, and the 1 piece of gear will pick from either of these bases at 50-50 odds, so the quality from this gear could pass on to the new one, or it could pick this as the base and we wouldn't have the quality on our last piece of gear. It also will carry enchants or other implicits that are on the gear, but when it comes to the modifiers, it will kind of mix them together and then randomly pick from them. And that's what we'll be doing in this guide, is finding a way, or I'll be telling you the way, to make this work in your favor to get the modifiers that you want. So we'll just pop these together so you can see it. It even turned the item rare because it's going to put on more modifiers. It actually put all of them on and we lost our quality. Now, you can't just put any stat on any gear. It still kind of has to follow the rules of the game. This is as simple as understanding that strength body armor, you can put armor on it, and on intelligence body armor, you put energy shield on it. Well, you can't cross those by recombinating. It will never appear on the final piece of gear, and this has to do with spell suppression on dexterity gear, and fraction modifiers. They're fractured to the base that you fractured them to, so they can't appear on the other piece of gear. And go ahead, just look at these to make sure you know everything that you can and can't do with your theory craft for the gear that you want to make. And this is from the Reddit post that I learned to recombinate from, and I'll put it down in the description. So go ahead and check that out too. And the other set of rules are called exclusive modifiers, where it's a little bit different than the non-native natural modifiers, where the non-native are never allowed to appear on some final pieces of gear. These are different, where one of them are allowed to appear on the final piece of gear. So if you have 5 exclusive on one piece of gear and 5 exclusive on the other, and you combine them, only one's going to ever appear. It's going to randomly pick between them through the rules that we'll talk about. But this is a lot of stuff that you can't alteration onto gear. This is my general rule to make it really simple. Basically, when you turn an item magic and you alteration it, any stat that you can alteration on is fine to combine with another piece of armor. When there's things that you can't alteration on gear, they're going to be exclusive most likely. And when you use an influence orb, I don't really have any of the, oh I do, but if you use an influence orb or you find an influenced piece of gear, you can alteration on those stats. But the elevated version of those stats, you can't just alteration on. You have to use the other pieces of currency. I've actually never done that, so I don't know which currency does that. But when you elevate them, you can't just alteration those on, so they are actually exclusive modifiers, while the normal ones that are influenced are not exclusive modifiers. Also, when it comes to essences, if it says of the essence on your gear, like my fractured one here, that is an exclusive modifier, but some essences don't say that. They have like a tier number, and those are not exclusive. So you could actually combine as many of those as you want onto gear if you find that to be useful. Even though you can put one of these on your gear, for the Recombinator crafting method that I'm going to show you today, you cannot use any of these because we're actually going to be use crafted exclusive modifiers to abuse a system that lets us get the modifiers that we actually want that are not crafted and not exclusive onto our gear. And this is because of this chart here. This chart is everything. This explains how to get 3 prefixes or 3 suffixes onto your gear by how many prefixes or suffixes you put in between the 2 pieces of gear. So if you have 3 prefixes on one piece of gear and 3 prefixes on the second piece of gear, and you combine them, there is a 72% chance that 3 prefixes will come out on the final piece of gear, and 28% that only 2 will come out on the final piece of gear. So I just want to give you a general demonstration of how we're going to be using the crafted modifiers to give us much better chances at getting the 2 modifiers to combine on our final item. So let's say our first item has percent energy shield and our second item has flat energy shield on it. And those are the only stats that are on the items at this time. I'm just representing them with W for win. And then we're going to represent the crafted modifiers with C. These two crafted modifiers are obviously going to be, you can have 3 crafted modifiers on your item. So then we can craft more crafted modifiers on our item. So along with you can have 3 crafted modifiers, we're going to be crafting on veiled modifiers because they are named of the order or chosen. So you can see they are also exclusive. And you get these from unveiling items with June. And then once you unveil that stat, you can craft them on your gear. So coming back to our items, we will craft on these exclusive veiled modifiers in the prefixes. And now when one of these veiled or meta mods appear on our final item, none of the other ones can. So this will give us our best chances at getting the 2 normal, non-exclusive stats that we probably alterationed onto our gear, onto our final item. So when you recombinate these, it will pick to do the suffixes first or the prefixes first at 50-50 odds. So let's say it picks to do the suffixes first. This is actually the best case scenario because it will for sure put one of these suffixes on since we have 2 of them. And let's say it puts it on our final item because it is. And now when it does the prefixes, it cannot put any of these other exclusive modifiers on, but these exclusive modifiers go into this calculation of how many prefixes will be on the final item. So there's a 100% chance that at least 2 of these mods will go onto the final item. So the only 2 mods that are possible are the ones that we want. So we win. We made our final item that we wanted. Now there are other possibilities here where if it picks the prefixes first, it is a 28% chance that it's 2 mods that appears on the final item first, and then 72% chance that it's 3 mods. So let's say it's 3 mods, it will probably pick one of the crafted ones first, and so it can't pick any of the other crafted ones, so we'll get the stats that we want, and then it won't put a suffix mod on there because it's also an exclusive modifier. So we still got the item we want, but if it picks to do 2 mods, it will most likely turn out, I keep doing capital, it'll most likely turn out like this because there's so many crafted mods on it that it's probably not going to pick the 2 mods that we want. So it's only 28% chance after a 50-50, so I think that's what, a 14% chance that it fails when we recombinate these 2 together with this setup. So this is a general blueprint of how you can make 5 mod gear. It's very simple and generalized, but I'm going to be making an intelligence body armor with these stats. This is what I want. And to do this, we're going to start with having a item with only tier 1 of a prefix that we want. So it could be either tier 1 energy shield %, hybrid, or flat. And then we're going to combine it with a different prefix, a different item that has only a prefix that's tier 1 of the stat that we want. And hopefully we will make a item that has 2 prefixes that we want. Then we're going to do the same with suffixes and make an item with 2 suffixes that we want. And then in step 2, we will take those items that we just got and recombine them together with crafting some modifiers onto them to make an item with hopefully 4 mods on it that we want. And in the last step, we will take that item and make a new 2 prefix item. So since we have prefix 1 and prefix 2, and we got that all the way down to here, we'll have to get prefix 3 along with either prefix 1 or 2 onto an item, and then recombine these with some crafted mods on those. And it's unlikely, but it's still pretty good odds at getting the final item with all tier 1 of the stats that we want, and we will be very happy with the final product. So the reason that we're using 2 prefixes or 2 suffixes together and not a prefix and a suffix is because these will be magic items that we're using alterations on. So when we combine them together, this item will come out rare, which is good because we want to craft on it in the next step. If we were using a single prefix and a single suffix, when we combine them, it would come out a magic item, and we'd have to use a regal orb on it to make it rare, and then annul that stat in a 1 out of 3 chance, which is not good. So yeah, just 2 prefixes or 2 suffixes when you're doing it like this. 3 things before we start crafting. Make sure you are using the right level gear for the stats that you want to get. I like to use PoEDB. You go to modifiers and pick the type of gear that you're crafting on. I'm using body armor, I'm using intelligence body armor, and you can see that I need level 86 body armor if I want tier 1 energy shield, percent energy shield. I farmed all of my own bases, and you can get level 86 gear from T17s, or you just buy them off people. They're usually pretty cheap, around 10 chaos or less. And then I got some lower level bases that I can roll other stats with besides percent energy shield. And if you're wondering, when you recombine items, it doesn't matter what the level is on the final item. The stats that are on the high level gear can be put down to low level gear. But if you're gonna craft on the item after you recombinate with a different crafting method, it might matter what the item level is. So here's the formula for that. We won't be using any of this really today, but I just wanted to make you aware of it. Number 2, if you need veiled modifiers, like if you haven't unveiled anything with June, you go to PoE trade and type in the type of gear you're doing. I have body armor, I'm gonna do rare body armor, and then you're going to type in veil. And veiled is prefixes, and of the veil is suffixes. So we'll get a prefix here, search that, literally 1 chaos. And then you go to Jun, whatever her name is, unveil the item, and then pick one that you don't have. The yellow is the one that I have, and I don't have these, so we'll just pick this one. See, I unlocked the craft. And now when you put body armor in your crafting bench and you look up that stat, you'll be able to craft it on there. And this will be one of our exclusive modifiers that help us get one of the stats that we want onto our final item. Lastly, make sure your Recombinator is fully leveled up. I don't think it will change anything that we're doing here if it's not, but I would just do it anyway because it does save you 25% of cost. Now I'm going to turn all these items magic because we're just going to be using alterations on them to get a stat that we want. So now I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to use alterations, and I'm just going to be looking for the words tier 1, and anytime I see tier 1 on the item, I'm just going to look at what the stat is, and if it's a stat that we want, I'm going to put it off to the side. So I got this. This is a good example. I'm going to have to alteration off this suffix. You don't have to, you can keep rolling until you only get 1, but I think that's a giant waste of time for how much you're going to have to alteration here. So just using a null, I got the stat I want. The annulls cost a little bit more than just alterations, but the time is money, so it's really actually probably cheaper in the long run. Okay, so I got 2 suffixes that I want to combine, and there's a couple ways to craft here. Obviously we cannot craft on any modifiers in this step because both of these items are magic. And when we try and recombine these, it is a 33% chance that we succeed and both the items go together per our chart. And this is fine because these bases and these stats are very cheap and relatively easy to get to. Although, if you are crafting something with a very expensive base or with stats that are very hard to get to appear on an item, you'll want the item to be rare. So we'll talk about that later. Right now we're just going to do the cheap craft. That's very easy to do with alterations. And then later on the video I will talk about more advanced stuff. So we'll put these together, recombine them, and it failed, but we will get 1 stat back. I'm glad we got the intelligence. And actually, I rolled earlier another resistance. So whenever you roll a tier 1 of something you already have, just put it off to the side because this is going to happen. And then you can just immediately try again. And we didn't get it. Got our fire resistance, so I'm going to keep rolling and get a prefix I want or a suffix and then start recombining stuff. Nice. So we got these to combine, so that we'll put this off to the side, and now we just need to get a intelligence roll and then try and recombine it with these. We got intelligence with a few resistances. Keep our intelligence, hopefully. Nope. Back to rolling. Alright, I got it. I ended up using a few hundred alterations, and I bought like 1,000 more and 100 more, so you're definitely not immune to pain this crafting method, but it will always end up how you want it, and you shouldn't really settle, so that does feel nice. So we're back here now, and we're going to craft on these items, and this is basically what we have now. Item with 2 prefixes, item with 2 suffixes, So we'll be crafting on, you can have 3 crafted modifiers onto both of these. Then we will just balance out the sides, so we can put 5 mods on this side and then 5 on this side. So what we want to happen is whatever side it picks first, it will be a 57% chance that it will pick 3 mods, and when it picks 3 mods, we'll say it picks prefixes first, it's going to put on a crafted one, and that means we have to get our 2 ones that we actually want, and then that guarantees that when it goes to the other side, it is a 100% chance that we end up with the 2 mods we want, because we'll have at least 2 mods, and it won't be one of the exclusive ones, which are the crafted ones. So there is actually one more thing you can do, and it's optional. You can put on a Beastcraft, and I may show you how to do this later, but I'm not going to do it right now. And what this will do is, if it picks suffixes first, it will give you a 72% chance to get 3 mods on one side. So that would be better odds than 57 by 15%, but that's only going to matter if it picks suffixes first. But you then have a 1 in 4 chance that your item comes out like this, which would be bad because you don't want the Beastcraft on there at all. So I don't really love this, and I'm not going to be doing it, because then if this happens, you have to use Eldritch Annals if you're using body armor or like a piece of armor in general. And if you're trying to recombine a weapon, you can't use Eldritch Annals, so you might accidentally just delete all the stats you have on your weapon, and this is just bad. So I'm not going to be doing this, but it is an option to increase your chances by, I mean, if it's like this, it's 57% chance that we get the item we want, and if you put on the Beastcraft, it increases your chances by like 7%, because it only helps you half the time when it picks suffixes first, but then there's also a small chance you make your item even worse than it already could have been. So on these suffixes, we'll be crafting on, you can have 3 crafted modifiers, and then 2 veiled prefixes. So chance to block spell damage, the armor during soul gain prevention that I just got. So that's all the crafts that we can put on there. And then this one. What do I need? I need a suffix and a prefix. Yes. So we'll put on the spell damage again. Well, we'll put on this because it's cheaper. Then we need a suffix. Cold and chaos resistance. Now we go recombine these together. 57% of the time, we will get what we want. And I think the other part of the time, we will come out with a 3 mod item, which isn't the worst thing. And it looks like we'll get our 4 mod item. Nice. Okay, so the next step, we'll just remove that crafted modifier so we can craft on this again later. But then we have to put together some 2 prefix item right here. I have these, and this will hit first try. Yeah, that's 100% of the time, it's 33% of the time. So we got that, and now we can go craft on our modifiers. So I did that pretty quick as a joke, but I can't believe it actually hit. But you can see the 2 prefixes we have is hybrid and flat, so I needed to put on the % energy shield, and it combined first try with the flat energy shield. So essentially what we have right now is this, two prefixes, 2 suffixes on our item, and then an item with 2 prefixes. So same thing, 3 crafted modifiers, and then we're going to fill up all the prefixes because we want our best chance at having 3 of them. And then we'll finish this out with the suffix. So at this point, it gets kind of hard to explain because there's so many outcomes of what could happen here. But best case scenario, what we want to happen is it picks suffixes, and it gives us 3 suffixes at 57% chance, which we have seen before will give us this. And then if it picks 3 prefixes, which is a 72% chance, then it comes out like this, and we have our final item, and we're done. The worst case scenario is that we get prefixes first, and it picks 2 of them, and 2 of the prefixes that it picks is a crafted one and one that we want, which forces the suffixes to be the 2 that we actually want, and we come out with a 3 mod item. Now this sucks, but we can use this item by completely remaking a 4 mod item here. So the format item that we would remake would be like this, and then we'll plug in the item we just got. Like this. So then when we craft everything on, we'll actually have a better chance at this in the long run because we will have 6 on both sides. So it sucks, but then like we can reuse that item for the future craft, and we just keep this cycle going until we finally end up with our 5 mod item. For this final craft, I will put a beast craft on it just to show you what's possible. And also, since it's armor, I can use Eldritch Annals, so it's not the end of the world. You just come to Path of Exile Trade, type in Deep. I always forget this dude's name, but it's this First of the Deep. You search that, and it's usually sold for 30 chaos, and it's been sold for 30 chaos for a long time now. So they'll give you this, and you go ahead and go to the menagerie. And when you're here, you just right click it and it will consume it. This is a one-time use thing. You go to the blood altar, and it goes all the way down to here, Aspect of the Crab skill. That is the skill we're going to be putting on here. It's one of these blue modifiers that oh, that's the wrong piece of gear. But okay, I got the correct piece of gear. We're putting it on the 2 mod item because we're just trying to increase our chances of the suffixes being 3 on the final item. And you'll see that this ends up not being like a crafted modifier. It is stuck on there, and you gotta annul it like I was saying. But we have the Aspect of the Crab skill. This is a exclusive modifier, so it will most likely not be on our final item, but it could be. Now we have 6 and 6 modifiers, so this is our best chance here at combining these into a 5 mod item. So say your prayers, and it's looking pretty good. This is a pretty big screen, so I think this will work out. And good, we didn't get Aspect of the Crab. This I think ends up being probably like between a 30 and 40% chance that this actually turns out how you want here. We got pretty lucky. This is awesome. I've had this go very bad a lot of times. The first time I ever did this method, I tortured myself by trying for hours and hours to get this to work out, and I was very unlucky, and it took me like 6 or 7 tries to craft my gloves. I ended up redoing my gloves to do different stats, and it only took a couple tries. Same with my staff. That was very expensive, only a couple tries. I think my boots were first try. This was first try. So it's just, you can be very happy with what you get in the long run. And then you can go ahead and divine it from here. That's how I would do like a cheap piece of gear like this. When you have an expensive piece of gear like my staff, you can, that is very annoying to look at, you can divine the stats beforehand, and they will combine onto that item with that value. So I didn't get perfect on my chaos damage over time multiplier, but everything else was perfect because it was very just inexpensive to roll it to there beforehand instead of afterwards. All right, now we're going to talk about stats that you're not going to easily get with alterations. And I'll start the simulation here. This is increased spell damage tier 1 on a staff. And this is the level that it appears on the staff, level 84 for the tier 1. And right now we are actually getting super lucky. I've seen this go way worse, but you can see even with the super lucky luck that we're getting right now, it is getting really rough. Like 1 in 2,000 we're approaching upon. Either way, even at best case scenario that it was like 1 in 1,000, which I know it's not. I think it's usually around like 1 in 2,000, 1 in 2,500. But you'd have to run this forever to figure out what it actually is. But yeah, so you're just not going to get this through alterations. What you're going to want to do is use a different crafting method. So let me make this rare, and then we'll restart the simulator with the method that I actually used to get the spell damage, which is an Aetheric Fossil. And, oh, not that. And you can see we'll get it much more frequently. Yeah, I've ran this before. This is about where it ends up at, around the 300-400 range. And we will take one of these items, because of course, when you're rolling it with fossils, you will end up with a lot of prefixes and suffixes that you don't want. And we're going to have to annul down to just 1. I don't know why it's not letting me move it. Oh, it is in a weird spot. Okay, that's kind of buggy. But either way, since we have 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes, there's nothing we can do besides hit it with an annul. So we got rid of a suffix, which is usually best case scenario, because we can just put on prefixes cannot be changed, and then scour. That'll take it down to 3 prefixes. And you're just 1 in 3 chance gonna get the stat you want. So you just double tap it and pray, and then cry. So, I mean, that took me 3 tries right there, but we got the stat we want. And once you get the stat you want, you'll obviously need another staff with another stat that you want, and then we'll combine them. So then when you have 2 isolated mods on the 2 bases that you want your final item to be, you can combine a prefix and a suffix together, and it will actually be better chances than 2 prefixes or 2 suffixes. And this is because we can put on crafted modifiers, and when we do this, it will turn out a little bit better. Well, definitely a lot bit better than 2 magic items that we're just slamming together. And so we'll have our 3 crafted modifiers, and then all the veiled exclusive modifiers. And this will give us, if it picks prefixes or suffixes first, it will give us an 89% chance that we come out with the 2 modifiers that we want, because the only way we lose is if it picks 1 modifier and then it picks one of the crafted ones. Most of the time, it's going to pick 2 or 3 and then pick the stat we want, and then one of the crafted ones, and then our other side comes out with the mod we want. So it's an 89% chance that we succeed here. The other way to do it with 2 prefixes and suffixes or suffixes is still pretty good, because we'll have our 3 crafted modifiers and then completely fill up the side with the 2 mods we want. And you can see if it picks suffixes, we just immediately win because it'll pick a crafted one, and it has to pick the 2 mods that we want on the other side. But if it picks the prefixes first, we have to get 3 mods to guarantee that we get the stats we want. So it's a 28% chance that we fail because it'll probably pick one of the crafted ones. But since it's only doing it half the time, that means it's a 14% chance to fail, and unlike our 89% chance to succeed, it's an 86% chance to succeed when we put 2 prefixes together. So still pretty close. So looking at the simulator again, you can see that it will cost about 6 divines on average to roll this stat. Well, alternatively, you can just look up items that have the stat you already want on the trade website, and people are selling them for a lot less. This is what I did. I just bought the base items, assuming they were like cheap enough. I mean, if I'd buy anything that was under the average, more or less. I mean, it's like crazy. When you're looking at hybrid stats like this, make sure you're not getting scammed, because you can't even get 209% increased spell damage. It's 2 stats together. It's tier 1 of this item, and then tier 1 of the actual, or not tier 1 of this item, but tier 1 of whatever hybrid stat this is. And then this is the actual tier 1 spell damage, so I would buy this one because it's actual tier 1 increased spell damage. This one's 5 div, I'd probably buy it because it saves you time. Oh, I would not buy it because it is not tier 1. And yeah, you get the idea. Some stats are still not cheap on the base that you want, so I'll show you that. All skill gems. This one, well, I might be called... Wait, what the heck? Oh, all spell skill gems. Yeah, okay, I'm not a liar. Yeah, these, you can definitely roll it for cheaper, but I still probably would want to save time, so I'd come look at this and be like, on the base that I want to use, they're very expensive, but what you can do is not look for your base, and just look for any rare item here with this stat. Well, you probably want to... That's dumb. You want to look for a staff still. You still want that. And then you can see you can get bases for way cheaper. These are corrupted. Can't do that. So a divine, I've seen them go for cheaper. So let's say I buy this staff and I want this stat on my other item, my battery staff. I will annul down to only this stat as I did before. And it will be a rare item. So that is a prefix. And then you'll just take whatever base you want. I want the battery staff, and you'll make it rare and annul all the stats off of it. So literally no mods on it at all. And just make sure it's rare, because we're going to craft on that you can have 3 crafted modifiers. and then just fill up everything else in the prefixes. And this will give us a 100% chance that we get our stat on our final item because, 5 prefixes, there's no way it can only end up as 1, so we'll get at least the stat we want and one of the exclusive ones, or it picks suffixes first, and then we'll just, in the prefixes, we get our stat we want. The only problem is it's a 50-50 in the long run if we get the battery staff or whatever this thing is. And yeah, so this is a good way to buy something cheap and then just use divs to move it over onto the base that you actually want. All right, that is everything that I know about recombination and all the strategies that I learned that I can share with you. It's definitely the best way to make some things. This staff would be basically impossible to make otherwise. You'd have to use prime chaotic resonators with the 4 fossils and just spam forever, and then you have to harvest craft, you have to fracture, and then you're still probably not going to come out with all tier 1s. So in some cases, this is the best crafting method by a landslide. Just depends on what you want to make. And I hope that this helps you make whatever you're trying to make. If you want to mirror this staff, please hit me up. She got rot, and we can work something out. I don't know why you would. Not many people are doing chaos dot damage builds, but if you're feeling inspired, we can work something out. Otherwise, just craft it yourself because I just taught you how here, which is cool. And if you have any questions, comment down below for any of your crafts. Like this video if this helped you out, and subscribe if you want to see more Path of Exiles or Path of Exiles 2 when that comes out. See ya.